How Statutes Are Published for the Intellectual Property Research course at Boston College Law School. When laws are originally passed, they're published just as enacted as slip laws, which are simply individual copies of the law as it was enacted. These individual laws are arranged chronologically in collections called session laws. That is, they are the individual laws of a particular legislative session. Federal laws are labeled as public or private and are numbered consecutively within the Congress in which they were enacted. So the law we see here, Public Law 94-553, is the 553rd public law passed by the 94th Congress. It was signed by the President on October 19, 1976. In the upper right-hand corner, we can see its citation in the Federal Session Laws, a set of books called Statutes at Large. This law begins on page 2541 of Volume 90 of Statutes at Large. Federal session laws can still be found in books, both the official Statutes at Large and the unofficial United States Code Congressional and Administrative News, often called USCAN, which is considerably more up-to-date than the official Statutes at Large. Federal session laws can also be found in a number of electronic sources. One I'd like to call your attention to is Hein Online, which has PDF images of Statutes at Large all the way back to Volume 1. This makes them very useful as a substitute for print. Federal session laws also are available on the Lexis and Westlaw legal research platforms, sometimes as text, sometimes as PDF. States also have session law compilations for their statutes, although the titles may vary. Here we see the Connecticut session laws, Connecticut Public and Special Acts, the Massachusetts session laws, Acts and Resolves of Massachusetts, and the West Virginia session laws, Acts of the Legislature of West Virginia. The simplest way to figure out the name of the publication for a given jurisdiction is to check Table 1 of the Blue Book. Here we can see the actual title of the book, as well as how to format a citation to a session law from that state. Hein Online has PDFs of virtually all state session law publications in its Session Laws library. The other form of statutory publication, which is probably the one you are most familiar with because it's the one we use most in legal research, is the Code. A code is a topical arrangement of all the permanent general laws in force. How difficult would it be to find all the applicable current laws on a given subject if they were just arranged chronologically? Luckily, we don't have to because there are codes. The first one pictured here is the official United States Code. A new edition is published every 6 years, and it's updated yearly with interim supplements. It is available online through govinfo.gov, the electronic publishing platform of the Government Publications Office. The second one pictured is the United States Code Annotated. It's published by Thomson Reuters Westlaw and is available electronically on Westlaw. The United States Code Service is published by Lexis Legal Publishing and is available electronically on the Lexis Advanced platform. The unofficial versions of the code are much more up-to-date than the official version, even in its electronic form. The other real advantage of the unofficial codes for research purposes is both USCA and USCS include annotations. This means references to cases that have interpreted particular code sections, and other useful research references. Let's take a look at the components of the United States Code Annotated set. State codes and other federal codes will generally have the same elements and follow very similar organizational patterns. Typically, the constitution of the jurisdiction will be first, then the actual statutes arranged by subject. The U.S. Code is broken into major subdivisions called titles, and there are currently 54 titles in the U.S. Code, but other codes may use different terminology for its major subdivisions. USCA and USCS contain court rules. USCA places them at the end of the statutes, but USCS places them after the related statutes. Court rules for some states can be found in their annotated codes, but many states publish their court rules in other places. In print, the main access point to a code will be an index or a popular name table. There are also tables volumes which can be very helpful when you are tracking changes to statutes. Some states organize their statutes by titles, just like the U.S. Code. Others, like Massachusetts, use chapters. Some call their major subdivisions articles. Some states, including California, New York, and Texas, have something called nominative codes, where instead of numbers, the major subdivisions have names. like the Civil Code or the Education Code or the Penal Code. Again, your best tool for finding both the names of the statutory codes and deciphering the proper citation forms is the Blue Book Table T1. So laws are published as enacted in enactment order in session laws. They're also published in a topical arrangement called a code. There are 4 basic ways that a newly enacted law can affect a code. And in fact, any given law passed by a legislature might do all of these things. First, it might amend an already existing section of the code. Second, it might add a brand new section. Additionally, a new law might repeal an already existing code provision. And finally, a law or part of it may not be permanent and general, and so will have no effect on the code at all. These are sometimes called unincorporated laws because they are not incorporated into the code. The Office of the Law Revision Counsel is the agency that maintains the official U.S. Code. These are the people who will decide where in the code the new provisions should go in this subject matter arrangement. They also run a free website that includes a very usable and up-to-date version of the U.S. Code. And they also provide a number of very useful research aids, including this popular name table.